Hello! Welcome to my presentation. Tonight I will be telling you about my lesson plan, which is a religion journal, and then I'll be telling you about my religious experience at a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist temple here in Toronto. The lesson is designed for Cycle 3 Grade 5 students, and it will be targeting the ethics and religious culture competency, which is to explore forms of religious expression, have the students make connections and reflect, and it will also be targeting cross-curricular competency as well as an English language arts competency. In this lesson, the students will be drawing upon various religious traditions found in the Montreal area to help the students explore the most populous religions in the world. They will be using a journal to examine their own cultural traditions and to also research another religion of choice. So they'll be doing comparing. Part of this research will involve field trips to local religious sites. And they'll also be encouraged to speak to an elderly person in their community. Although the site that I researched is in Toronto, the lesson uses the Quebec competencies and can easily be applied to a Montreal classroom. This lesson will take approximately 10 periods to complete, so it's not a single day lesson. And let us begin. Students will be choosing 2 religions to research, preferably from the 5 most populous religions: Sikhism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. One of the religions should be their own, unless they don't have a religion, and in that case they may choose another one to research. The journal will be separated into categories, and the student will be required to explore and reflect on the many different aspects of their 2 religions. Here's an example of what the journal might look like. It would be titled My Religion Journal, and each student would have one. It would be separated into sections, the first section being a question section, where the children could write down their questions that they might have about the 2 religions that they're going to be researching. Then there would be sections in the book, such as founder and place of origin and worship. Another section, culture and beliefs of the 2 religions. Symbols and celebrations. Prayers and reflection on prayers. Spring celebrations. A section for the field trip reflections. And also a section called note boxing, and this is where the students would be writing all their research material from the books or from websites, and then rewriting it in the previous sections. This would help the students practice editing as well as avoid some plagiarism. And there you have it. With the journal, I would really like to encourage creativity, so encourage the students to use images, drawings, any sort of creative element they might want to add to their journal. As a class, we will come up with what the students already know and what they want to know. One section of the journal is on the elderly. I chose to include this section because not only do I feel that it is important to listen to stories from our elders, but I believe that they will add an interesting element to the students' research. I would like the students to come up with questions that they would ask someone of advanced age, and then ask a family or friend the questions. Part of the field trip will also be to a retirement home, so they will have the opportunity to speak with someone there. I did my visit to a Buddhist temple, so I'll show you a clip from a movie that I would show the students. It's an excellent series of videos. Before I show it to you, I apologize in advance for the quality.
Today we're going to talk about Buddhism. There are more than 360 million Buddhists living all around the world today. That's about 6% of the world's population. Most of today's Buddhists live in China, Japan, and Southeast Asia, although their numbers are growing in the United States and Europe. The Buddhist religion is named for its first teacher, the Buddha, or enlightened one. His followers believed the Buddha was enlightened because he was awakened from ignorance and realized the truth about life. That great enlightenment came about 2,500 years ago to a prince who left his family and possessions to achieve it.
According to Buddhist tradition, Siddhartha Gautama was born around 563 BCE near the Himalayan mountains in what is now the country of Nepal. He was a prince raised in the palace of his father. Siddhartha's father wanted his son to be happy, so was careful never to let him see anything in the world that might make the boy feel sad. But when Siddhartha grew up to be a young man, he wanted to see more of the world than just the inside of a palace. So one day, he left and wandered the open road. On his journey, Siddhartha saw 4 things that changed his life. For the first time, he saw an old man and realized that all people grow old. He saw a sick man and realized that there is pain and sickness in the world. He saw a funeral procession and realized for the first time that living things die. He realized that there was much suffering and sadness in the world. Finally, he saw a religious man who had given up all of his possessions, yet seemed happier than the people who owned many things. And so, Siddhartha decided he would give up everything he had, his father's riches, even his own wife and child, and search for answers to the question of why there is suffering and sadness in the world. Siddhartha exchanged his fine clothes for the long robes of a monk, a holy religious man. Siddhartha lived a life of poverty for 6 years. He went without food and sleep so that he could understand what it felt like to be hungry and tired. He became very thin and nearly starved to death, but he felt no closer to the answers he was looking for. Siddhartha realized he was not going to gain the truth by denying the needs of his body. From then on, Siddhartha chose what he called the middle path. Neither the self-indulgence of his life in the palace, nor the extreme self-denial of his life in poverty. Instead, he chose a life of moderation.
A field trip will be arranged where the students will be able to visit at least 3 religious sites and a retirement home. This is a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist temple in Toronto. I visited the temple twice so that I could take photographs on the first day. On that day, I went and I met with a very nice man who told me that he ran the temple. It was a large, bright, modern-looking building. There were quiet corners in the lobby area with the statue of the Buddha. My son particularly liked the stones on the ground.
Don't drop them now.
Inside the worship space, there were lots of chairs set up facing the sacred symbols and the place where the chants would be led. I was told that they have a rather small congregation and that it is difficult to attract youthful families to services. They have many extra activities that they hold in the temple, such as drumming, dancing, and flower arrangement classes.
Since 1948.
It should be noted that Jodo Shinshu Buddhism is somewhat different from other Buddhist practices. It originated in Japan, and there are 4 factors that set Jodo Shinshu apart. 1 is the absence of meditation. 2, there's no superstitious beliefs or worldly benefits. 3, it's a non-monastic priesthood. There's no monks. And 4, there's superficial similarities with Christianity, including what I witnessed was an offering plate, there's an organ, and the seats instead of mats on the floor. The service that I went to was a spring Higan service. It's observed by the Japanese Buddhists during the spring and autumn equinox of each year. The Buddhists come to meditate on the harmony of nature which pervades the universe and to devote themselves to the realization of this harmony in one's own inner life. This was the bell that sounded to call everyone to worship. At the service, there was chanting, singing, pledging, and quiet reflection. The Dharma talk was delivered by a minister. Chanting the words of Shakyamuni Buddha in the Pure Land was done to honor and praise the virtues as well as to help internalize the meanings of their words. Chanting is done together with everyone gathered at the service. Jodo Shinshu Buddhists do not regard Amida as a divine being with whom they maintain an ongoing relationship. They realize their essential oneness with Amida in their oral recitation, for Amida is none other than the name Namo Amida Butsu. I should also mention that during the service, they also honored the seniors in their community with a yearly Kierokai celebration. One of the seniors was 99 years old. It was a beautiful service, and it was strange though. I did notice that there were no children present, so I think they might have been in another room, or maybe they weren't invited to this special service. It was led in both English and Japanese, and it seemed like most of the congregants were familiar with all of the chants. There was a prayer book though, so they could read along. I felt a little bit out of place, but everyone was quite friendly. And also the ceremony for the elders was quite long because they would present each person with a special plaque and say a special prayer. Plus they were elderly, so they took a while to come to the front, but I didn't mind. Everyone that was there was very relaxed, and they seemed very willing to wait for each senior to come up to the front. After the field trip to the religious sites, each student would have time to reflect on their experiences in their journal. As a concluding exercise, another grand discussion would take place so that some of the knowledge gained could be shared with the class. Some of the points could be added to the learnt section of the KWL chart in the classroom. Well, there you go. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Also, check your email for the handout that I made up on this lesson plan with more details as well as some great resources. And yeah. Happy teaching, everyone. Bye.